G'day, hi, and welcome. It'd be a canyon carver, so to speak, on that thing. It's got like 8-inch clearance. You'd roll the darn thing before you'd be able to do it. It's not a sport vehicle at all. But the thing is on a straight line, I noticed that car is really darty because it's such a short wheelbase. But had it, you know, if it was a low profile or lower to the ground, yeah, the thing would handle like it'd be fun. It'd be like a go kart. And that's what the Mini Cooper would be like, right? So why am I bringing up the Mini Cooper? Well, the Mini Cooper, if you're looking for a car to go through canyons, that might be a better choice than the Mustang, because the Mustang, with all that horsepower, everything like that, depending on what rear axle you have, depending on how well it'll go through those canyons. That said, you can get $1,000 Mustangs, or you can get $100,000 Mustangs, which the more refined upper end Mustangs, which is usually out of the price range of the average person, yeah, they will have better suspension packages. But even at that, let's say you take the top dog, best handling Mustang you can get, it's still not going to handle as well as most sports cars, and you're in the same money anyway. So the thing that I'm getting at here is, if you put the Mustang as a priority car to get, understand what you're getting, understand which kind of Mustang you're buying. Do you want to go fast in a straight line, or do you want to go around corners? Most Mustangs don't seem to go around corners very well, depending on, especially, it mainly depends on the rear axle a lot. But again, you can counter that with the amount of plethora of parts you can get. So what makes the Mustang suck is the fact that you have so many options that you have to understand what you bought. And a lot of guys seem to not understand what they bought. And you'll see like a really tight steering car pull out of a parking lot, out of a car show, and no squealing on the wheels, and the guy like basically pulls out at 50 miles an hour, doesn't even squeal the wheels. And then the Mustang comes out, and it's the back end's passing the front end. You can't even keep the thing in a straight line. You can't keep the power going in a straight line. It's the same problem the first and second generation Dodge Vipers had. I mean, yeah, they were fine until they broke traction. Once they broke traction, that's it. The back end had passed the front end. It was a widowmaker. Corvettes are known as that. I mean, the Corvettes now are pretty good handling wise. There's no doubt about that. And even the Ford Mustangs now are pretty good. They've done a lot of work to seems to, under the reviews, that it seems to be better. But it's a car that's still designed as something else. You know what I mean? Like it's the same problem with the Porsche 911, where they're still trying to get that engine, the Carrera engine. It's still, they don't want to make it a mid-engine. Where the Cayman S, for example, that everybody loves the Cayman S because it's a mid-engine car. All the balancing problems that the bigger 911 has, it doesn't have. So people say it's the better car for handling. It's just the 911 is more powerful than, the Carrera. Of course, you got different trim levels for that too. But again, tool to the job. What is it you want to do? So for me, if I was going to get a Mustang, like for example, I was looking at two 2005s, one for $1,450. I can imagine at that price it's probably going to need a lot. The average price for those cars is about 4,000 to 7,000. That's not bad. And at 10 grand, you get one that's in mint condition. Now, what about older cars, like say 60s cars? I've seen them in running condition from about 10 grand up. I've seen for about 6 grand a few Mach 1s that are not runners, but again, basically everything's there. You just gotta kind of restore it all. The older Mustangs, again, they're not really going to be cars that you want to beat up on. These are going to be more, classic car running, so more of a cruiser car than a drag car or a canyon carver type of thing. So yeah, if you're looking at a Mustang, figure out first what you want to do with it. For me, I think if you got a 2005 generation or newer, or even the 90s generation, I forget which, like the generation, I guess 4 and 5. If you got those early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, those Mustangs, you can seem to find them in good condition between 1500 and 2,000. Now I'm talking Canadian dollars up here, but probably around the same in the States. Same thing. I would do a compression check if you could. At least pull the plugs out to have a look at each one. If you're buying any sort of semi-performance car, you're probably buying it off a jerk that's been, mashing the pedal all the time. But sometimes you can find these cars in good condition. Know what to listen for if you take it for a test drive, even if the guy doesn't let you drive it. Sometimes, if the guy's not willing to let you drive it, there's usually a couple of reasons. Number one, they don't know what your driving skill is and they don't want you to crash the thing. Number two, they don't want you to know what's going on. So learn to listen for, okay, is that a clunky shift? If it's an automatic, is it shifting right? Check the tranny oil, check the motor oil, check, pulling out the dipstick on any car can tell you a lot about the owner. It'll tell you a lot about the owner. You pull out the dipstick and you look at the oil and, hey, look at that, it's all nice, right? And it's nice and clean. Okay, that's a good sign. Pull it out, the dipstick's, not only the oil's black, but it's like it's only half full. Stuff like that. So check out all those components. Get underneath the car a bit, have a look. Grab the grab the drive shaft, give it a shake. See how much plays in there. I mean, there's always going to be something. Again, these cars get hammered on this. It's the same problem that Camaros have. And I'm going to do a video on Camaros too, because I'm more familiar with Camaros. Personally, I think if you were going to go for a muscle car, the older Camaros are probably a better deal than the Mustangs in a lot of ways. Same thing. There's so many plethora of parts that you don't have to worry about parts. That's what I like about the Ford Mustangs and the Camaros, Corvettes. Trans Ams are a little bit more rare, but they're still pretty plentiful. But now, mind you, for my European brothers and sisters, it might be a slightly different take. But yeah, I've seen many Mustangs spin out, in real life just the same way I've seen them spin out. Again, watch YouTube and watch how the cars are handling. So a lot of times, like I say, if the cars, if you want to do drifting or whatever, and like Hoonigan stuff, I mean, yeah, those cars are like $100,000 cars. So they've got everything built in, custom to the driver, that knows how to make that car handle, and they're trained well enough that they can drive it. Something that I can do really cool up here, and this is one thing I would recommend if you can get a chance to do it. Is I live at the part of Canada where I'm kind of in the sweet spot where almost any direction I go in within an hour to 2-hour drive to maybe 4-hour drive, I can go to an either drag strip, a racetrack, motorcycle racetrack, car racetrack, whatever. But I also live near Calabogie, Ontario. About an hour and a half. I'm on the Quebec side, but I'm about an hour and a half from Calabogie, Ontario. Now, what's significant about that? Well, the largest racetrack in Canada is in Calabogie. There's another nice one in Shannonville that's really technical and stuff like that, great for motorcycles. But Calabogie, I believe it's Calabogie, you can actually rent for about a half an hour. You can race a Ford Mustang. They got a bunch of Ford GTs there, various different years. I can imagine, say like 2008, 2013s, 2010s, whatever, set up for the track. So you could really go and see what you can do with those cars, and it would be for $150 for a half an hour. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's really not that bad when you think about it. You go out for half an hour, and you get to do things that would put you in jail. You get to tramp the pedal. You get to see what the car cannot do on a corner. You do have obviously an instructor there with you, but and I do plan on doing that, because that way you would learn very quickly if the car was for you or not. Another thing you can do is look for rentals. For example, there's a guy, and I guess it's like kind of like the way Uber works, but only, or not Uber, but the one where you rent your apartment out and your house out, what's it called? But anyway, that one. You could do, like some people, like for example, there's a guy posted a thing last night, brand new 2018 I guess Z07. I guess that's whatever variant of Corvette we're up at now. $135 you can rent that car for the day, and he's doing it just so he can pay his insurance on that car. So he rents it out to pay the insurance on it. Right now, I guess the deal's done because there's snow on the ground. But think about it, like $180,000 of car there. Now, what that entails, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you'd have to sign some waiver, such as you broke it, you bought it, you break it, whatever. But that'd be a great way to know if this is a car you want to drive or buy or whatever. And then it would give you an experience on comparing. Now, a nice thing about Ford Mustangs is you probably don't even have to go that far. You could probably go to a rental car company and say, hey, I want to rent a Mustang convertible. Okay, yeah, we got this one from this year, this year, this year, this year, whatever. That's a great way to figure out whether you like that style of car or not. Same with all these other, like Mini Coopers and stuff like that. Yeah, rental companies, they have these things. I remember Volkswagen Beetles, like every rental company was picking them up because women would always want to rent these Volkswagen Beetles for some reason, right? But that's a great way to sell cars too. It's like, okay, well, here, put a couple of these as rentals, right? Most people, when they rent a car, it's because they're going from point A to point B. So like an LS300, no problem. Dodge Charger, no problem. Why? Because those are good long-range highway cars, right? They got lots of power. They're very comfortable, etc., etc. But some people just want, something to, like, again, it's hard to get the exotics or whatever, but you can get, Ford Mustangs as rentals as well. Go out, rent one for the day. Drive it around, see if you like it. Maybe you'll find that you don't like it, right? But the nice thing is they're easy to find. They're like all these things that I've mentioned, parts are easy to find. Again, rental, fairly easy to find, no problem. But what the thing is that what are you looking for? So what's going to suck is if you buy the wrong Mustang, expecting it to do something that it can't do, and what you'll hear is a guy, he'll get a Mustang, he'll love the Mustang until he drives something else. He drives like a sports car, whatever. It's like, well, I had my Mustang, now I have the Cayman S because I really wanted to, tear up the canyons, that kind of thing, if you live near canyons. Or, Quebec roads is the same thing. It's just nothing goes in a straight line around here. Yeah, so a sports car might be what you're really looking for, something that handles. And I mean, sports cars, a lot of them have the same power anyway. So you get the speed, you get the handling, you don't end up upside down all the time, or, whatever. But for some people, that's, like the nice thing about a Mustang is you can still use it like a family car. It's just this real wheel drive. Kind of sucks in the winter if you're driving a Mustang in the winter, or a Camaro, or these things. Now, mind you, when I was a kid back in the 70s, everybody drove pretty much rear wheel drive, right? But the cars were heavier. I mean, that helped with the traction a bit. They were wider, they were heavier, they were just bigger. But yeah, everybody would spin out as soon as you try to go up a hill. It's the same thing with a pickup truck with no weight in the back in the wintertime. You can't go anywhere without the 4x4, right? So Mustangs are not great year-round cars. That kind of sucks too. Okay if you don't have hardly any snow, or if you live on really flat, like in a really flat area. Me, not so good. Why? Everywhere I go is like hills and mountains, and curves and hills and mountains. So rear wheel drive, if the roads are dry, no problem. But if on fresh powder, black ice, bad recipe to be having a Ford Mustang out there. So that kind of sucks that even though it's a car that you can use, you got trunk space, you've got back seats and stuff like that, so you can do stuff with it. It's not really a sports car. It's a little more utilitarian than that. But at the end of the day, it is still a sport coupe, right? So other things about it that might suck is the insurance. Why? Because again, all these crowd. I mean, a car that has a reputation as a crowd killer. You know what I mean? I was watching one girl. She bought a Mustang, and she was like doing like little spoofs about how her Mustang was like bloodthirsty or something like that, and pretending to wipe blood off the front bumper and stuff. Okay, yeah, it was pretty funny. And again, that's more has to do with the people that drive it. In other words, idiot or not idiot. Like there's a lot of people that drive can drive these cars responsibly. But there's always that one guy, that has to do the stupid thing at the car show, right? Um, I never seen it happen at a car show, but I did see it at a bike rally once, where a guy nearly went into a row of bikes doing a burnout. And I mean, yeah, again, you can find footage of these mishaps all the time. Um, but yeah, you'll see like a guy, he's there, he has to do the burnout right near the line of all these cars. He loses control. Next thing you know, he hits like 10 vintage cars. You know what I mean? Just yeah, like it's just there's always that one guy that has to be that much of an idiot. Uh, but again, it comes down to you got to know what you're dealing with, though. If not, that car's going to get away from you, so it can bite you. Uh, but if you drive it sensibly, you could probably drive it and have a lot of fun without being stupid with it and not getting into trouble. But that is one of the things that's going to get you with a Ford Mustang. Pretty much, I don't know what it will be in your place area, but before you buy one, whatever model you're looking at, I do this all the time. If I see a car that I'm interested in, I don't care what it is, I call my insurance company first. And I call them, I say, I don't, and a lot of times I say, well, you got the serial number to get the exact quote on it? And I'm like, that's the way they do things now. It seems is like, if you have the serial number, then they'll give you the exact quote or whatever. But I'm like, okay, just give me the ballpark, you know what I mean? So I'm thinking of buying it. I might not buy it. So it's like you let's say Mini Cooper. Okay, it's going to be 275 insurance for the year. Okay, that kind of sucks, but it's not bad. Okay, Ford Mustang, 6-cylinder. Okay, automatic. Okay, 150,000 miles on it. Okay, no problem. $810. What? uh, you know what I mean? Why? Because it's considered a blacklisted car maybe in your area. They will, like, insurance companies will look for any reason to make more money, but they are cars that do end up in the ditch quite a bit. So the good thing about that is that means you never have a problem finding a Ford Mustang parts car. The bad problem is because they end up in the ditch so much because usually of careless driving, in other words, idiots. It raises everybody's insurance. Trust me, I have a sport bike. I know every time I see an idiot doing something on a sport bike, I'm like, you're raising my insurance, man. Stop it. You know what I mean? I was talking to that guy this summer. I pulled in beside him. I seen him like 2 or 3 times, and he has a Z1000, whatever, Kawasaki. Okay, he's paying $500 a year for insurance on that bike. Mine, and that's a 1,000cc bike, but because it was considered sport touring and not a super sport, even though it's the same, it's the same, Z, or what do you call it, Ninja 1000 motor in there, just different tuning. My bike only 600 cc's, 400 cc's less, considered a super sport. I was paying 1,300. So there's that. So price out different things. You might find some cars are going to be a bit better. Some of the older cars might not be so bad, but if it's an 8-cylinder, it's going to be obviously more insurance than what a 6-cylinder is going to be. Age will matter for some. For me, my area, it's no fault insurance, so age doesn't really account for much. Once you get over the age of 25, it drops a bit, but you're still, like they're punishing the car, not the person, so to speak, if that's the best way I could put it with the insurance. It's like, well, that's a high bracket. Those cars tend to get into Corvettes, same thing. Camaro, same thing. Anything 2-door is always going to be more expensive in insurance. A red car is going to be more expensive in insurance than a yellow car. Yes, I kid you not. I kid you not. My friend, he bought, a guy I worked with years ago, he bought a little Cavalier or something like that. I can't remember what he bought. But anyway, it was a red car 2-door. And he was like, tell me about the insurance and stuff like that. Had he bought the gray or a yellow model? Because the statistics show, for some strange reason, the highest, maybe it's just because it's the most numerous color job out there, because it's usually the base model color is always silver, right? Silver cars have the highest rate of accident, and red cars have a high rate of accident. I don't know why this is, but maybe it's just because people either get a red car or a silver car, and just per capita, right? But yellow cars have a low accident rate. Therefore, you might get a better discount The insurance companies go that technical, where it's like, okay, well, a yellow car gets in less accident, we won't charge them as much. So they're not really charging you any less. It's just like, okay, we'll charge everybody this. Okay, and then everybody else goes up from there. So, I don't even know. I bet you they even probably charge you more for racing stripes. Again, who knows, right? But you want to check that out because that is going to be a high insurance bracket car. It might not be unbearable. Again, it won't be like a Porsche 911 or something like that, or like a new vehicle. For example, in my area, any vehicle that's less than 10 years old, you have to get full coverage. If it's more than 10 years old, they won't give you full coverage regardless of what it is. So shop around. Maybe you buy, like, say a 67 fastback, right? Okay, you want full coverage on that for theft and liability, but it's such an old car that they might not do it, but they might put it under a vintage insurance. So check that out too. So if your car is more than 25 years old, it might qualify as a vintage insurance, which can greatly reduce the cost, but you have a limited amount of times you can drive it a year. So you might only be getting, like, say 500 to 1,000 kilometers of coverage, meaning you can't drive it any more than that as a vintage vehicle, but it might only be like $80 a year. If you drive more than that, it'll avoid the insurance, right? But that it has to be cars over, not just specifically Mustangs. It's cars over the age of 25 years or whatever. They qualify as vintage, classic. Vintage is a little bit older, and then what's you got classic, vintage, and then you've got antique, right? So or vintage, classic, antique, something like that, anyway. So yeah, going on a little bit longer than I thought here, but so it's not really about how the car sucks, but just things to look for. It's just a catchy title might get people to look at it. Now, for myself, again, I'm well acquainted with Ford Mustangs, because there's so many of them around. That's the other thing that kind of sucks about them, is that you're not going to be a unique individual in a Ford Mustang. You're going to pull up with a light, and it's like, okay, in the summertime, you're going to have maybe a Ford Mustang ahead of you. 3 cars back, there's going to be one. Maybe 4 cars behind him, there's going to be one. They are popular. Like the sales numbers for the Ford Mustang, it is one of the #1 selling coupes, sport coupes out there. It's so available. But that's also where the love them, hate them kind of relationship seems to stem from. Where it's that there's so many. You go to a car show, again, pick a year, any year, you can pretty much get parts for because there's so many of them. Again, 1964, one of the highest records. They sold almost 500,000 cars in the first year of its production. Only dwarfed by, I think, 2007, 2008, 2009, which I think they were like a ridiculous amount of car sales. So how many millions of Mustangs have they built? I don't know. And like I say, in one generation of Mustang, there's like 70 different variants. And on those variants, how many paint jobs and options are just, it's through the roof, which makes it great. But then I would kind of correlate the Ford Mustang like the Harley Davidson of cars, where there's just so many of them out there that it's like they're more of a trend than they are unique. If and I know some people will take offense to that, but it's not meant to be offensive. It's that, like, I mean, it's easy to find a Harley anywhere you go. You know what I mean? It's easy to find a Mustang anywhere you go. Not so easy to find, say, a real exotic car, something rare, like a Bugatti Veyron. You're not going to see those all over the place, Even the GT40, you're not going to see it all over. I've only seen maybe 2 of them in my life. Yeah, so there's that. The Mach 1s, they're kind of rare, but you'll still see them at every car show, at least 1 or 2 of them. Eleanors, I mean, you'll see like each generation of an Eleanor. You'll see the what's the Steve McQueen, the green one there. The what's the name with Steve McQueen in it? Like that. You'll see even the original Eleanor color. Like from the first Gone in 60 Seconds. The second one is a lot different. It's not an original car. It's a very highly modified car. It really has the old look to it. So the silver and black striped one versus the kind of, I don't know what kind of color, like pea soupy brownish original one with the black hood. You know, to tell you the truth, I like the original one. The original Gone in 60 Seconds car. Like it's a, you know, it's just it's a good looking car. The color is kind of one of those colors. There's something I noticed with Mustangs is they get these weird colors, and it's like either color repulses you at the beginning, but then it grows on you because it's unique. I don't know. Is that a sickness or something? I don't know. But you get the idea. The other thing too is that you're going to get that sucks about a Ford Mustang is a lot of people will just stereotype you as a certain type of person if you're driving a Ford Mustang. Some people call Ford Mustangs a chick car. Chicks do. Here's the cars women typically like. They like Ford Mustangs because everybody, not everybody, but guys like Ford Mustangs because they're powerful cars, whatever. Girls like Ford Mustangs because they're a good-looking car. Girls like Volkswagen Beetles, Mini Coopers. But the difference between the Ford Mustang, and Jeeps. Women like Jeeps. Women like convertibles for some reason. Not everyone, but you get the idea. There's a stereotype there, right? But the difference between the Volkswagen Beetle and the Mini Cooper, and the Mini Cooper, where I'm divided on the Mini Cooper, is the problem with the Mini Cooper is it's a cute car. The same with the Volkswagen Beetle. If a guy drives a Volkswagen Beetle, gets out, people assume he's gay. I'm not saying that to be demeaning, but they will assume you're gay. It's like, why are you driving that? And that's when you have to say it's the wife or girlfriend's car, or it's a rental. That's all they had. You know what I mean? It's just they're not guy cars, right? But the Mini Cooper straddles the line because it is a car that, a Mini Cooper gets respect if you do something to it. Even if you just change the rims or something, just to say you modded it, because it is a tuner kind of car, right? But the Mustang is a car that, again, it's a muscle car. It's a sport coupe, whatever that means. You know what I mean? So it's not a car. It's not a car that's really known for handling. Most American cars don't handle that well when you're talking about zipping through corners. They're getting better though. They are getting a lot better. But I don't know. The Americans have never put, like the Europeans have always put everything on handling. All their emphasis on handling. Where the Americans have always put the emphasis on muscle power, you know what I mean? Displacement. So big engines go fast. Is it maybe just the landscape? Europe's a little more twistier roads and narrower roads, which, I mean, I can understand, like a lot of the old European cities, you barely got one lane there, let alone two. So a big honking Mach 1 trying to go through the cities of Italy, like the city, like Italian cities. Yeah, you're gonna have a hard time getting that car through, right? It's a big beast of a car, in comparison to some of these other little things that they got, these little three-wheeled cars and all that. But then handling becomes a big priority for the European countries. So you see, like BMW, where the 3 Series BMW. 3 Series BMW, it's the same problem with the Mustang, is that everybody's beating it up. But if you can get a used BMW and just drive whatever little life is left at it and just take the loss whenever it dies, because the parts are so expensive. That's the problem with BMWs. Parts are too expensive. But if you were going to go for a handling, a 3 Series BMW versus a Mustang going through corners, you probably want the BMW more, BMWs are known for the good handling. But if you were going to go fast in a straight line, no replacement for displacement. As long as you can keep the car going in a straight line without dying, it's the way to go. I don't know what else I could say that's really bad about the car. Again, I've seen lots of them work done. There was there was 2 guys that I was working with that had Mustangs. 3 guys I worked with that all had Mustangs. One had a 65. He drove this thing daily. And again, yeah, he had squawked the tires once in a while. Just a quick squawk and that's it. You'd have fun with it. But he babied it, right? I mean, this is not a car that you're going to pound the crap out of. So he was that kind of driver. And then the next guy was a little different. He had the 5.0 Mustang. Again, he never steered. He just tramped the pedal when he wanted to turn. You know what I mean? He just bring out the back end and dart in a different direction. And then there was the other guy that had that 2007, 2008, and that thing was set up for the drag strip. I mean, that car was pretty. That car was pretty. It was a rough ride. He had the suspension set up for Luskville Dragway, and again, he was in the 11s, the 10s, the 11s. Very fast car. Was in it quite a few times. Never got the pleasure to drive it, but it was a car that, like, yeah, it could get away from you very, very easily. I don't think there was any rider control, traction control, or anything like that at the time on it. Maybe there was. I don't know. I didn't know all the inner workings of his car at the time. I just remember, he'd give me a lift from time to time to the bus stop or whatever, and I mean, that thing moved. That thing was crazy fast, crazy powerful. Probably, I think. Well, I think he was running over 600 horsepower. So at the time, mind you, heavily modified car. Again, a car that no problem. You want to modify, pick a year, any year, you can modify the crap out of it. But the other problem is when you get these Frankenstein cars too, you got a car that's been modded so badly that it just becomes a nightmare to own it. Like nothing works right. Things are breaking down all the time. I've had friends that let's put it to you this way: I've pushed a mini Mustang. Again, the old Fox body. A friend would buy one for $500, and he'd break it on and after every week he'd break something on it. But it was mainly his own stupidity, right? But and then you'd get the guy, it's like, oh, these things are junk, they don't last. It's like, they last fine if you don't tramp on them like an idiot all the time, right? I think he crashed it, to be honest with you. I think that's what finally done it in. And then he started buying Camaros, because somehow that was going to be different. Those things ended up sideways all the time too. But I don't know if I had a choice of any Mustang versus any Camaro. Now, talking older generation stuff, I would probably go for the Camaro before I'd go for a Mustang. Same kind of car, but you got slightly bigger options with the Camaros, right? But the thing is that the Mustangs were always known to outhandle the Camaros. Even the newer ones is the same thing. The Camaros are a little bit longer. The new Camaros are pretty mean looking, but I don't know. I walked into a Ford dealership there about 2 years ago when I was getting my driver's license. I know a little bit late to get my driver's license, but better late than never, right? And walking in and seeing that, like, every color of the rainbow, so to speak, in Ford Mustangs, ranging from the base model right up to the snake cars, right? And $130,000, whatever they were. 70, I think 60 to 70 grand was the average price of a Mustang. So newer stuff is just really not really in the range of most people. The good news is that these cars seem to lose a lot of value very quickly. That's kind of a downfall if you're buying them new, right? I mean, a $70,000 Mustang in 2000, well, we're 2018 right now. 10 years ago, a $70,000 Mustang back then was the top of the line Mustang, right? That same car you pick up for maybe between 15 and 30,000 now. So that's a great depreciation. Give it another 5 years, they'll be 4 to 6 grand. Same car, same condition. Like, so that's the problem with the Mustangs, because there's so many of them, that some of them will hold really good value. Like the older cars are really coming up in value. There's no doubt about that. I mean, a perfectly restored 60s Mustang is going to be in the $20,000 to $30,000 range, but you could still get a mint condition, Mustang, like a 60s Mustang, for 15 grand or less. Just some people are okay. Well, like for example, that beautiful. Oh, I'm gonna have to see if I can squeeze some of that footage in there if I can find it. But I'll see if I can find at least pictures of it. But my friend Benny, his Mustang, he's probably got 40 grand into that thing over the years. It's a beautiful canary yellow Mustang. I can't remember if it's a 68, 69. He told me what it was, but I haven't seen it. But I think he's going to sell it for 16,000. And I mean, That's amazing. But he could, if he held out, he could probably still get 30 for it. It's just, he's got like 8 muscle cars, so he's just like, quick sale, right? So that's a good thing for a buyer, bad thing for somebody who wants it to hold the resale value. But that said, yes, the older cars are going up on average. Pretty soon, like, I mean, anything from Shelby's going to probably go over $100,000, over time. I mean, even the kit cars are, the Cobra, the Shelby Cobras and stuff like that. The kit cars are going to be, they're all over 70 to 100 grand. You know what I mean? So yeah, there are certain ones that will be really, really, really collectible. But I found a '64 Mustang. Mind you, it needed everything. I mean, we're talking total disassembly of the car and start, but it was pretty much all there. I'm pretty sure there was probably some not original parts on it, but a car that was probably 85 to 90% all original. Mind you, the paint faded and all that, the upholstery was, done and whatever. But an original car, if you took that car and redone it, sure. But 8 grand, still running. Running rough, but still running. So great project car. A Mach 1 I was looking at for 6 grand. Not all original, missing quite a bit of stuff. But a car that, okay, even if you just bought the shell, with no motor, no transmission or whatever. Even if you just bought the shell, what would be cool about that is what you could do is just restore the shell, sell it, and buy another Mustang. It's like, okay, here's a Mach 1 body. There was a 71 that I could, no, it was a 69 for $1,600 that I could have bought. Again, it wasn't a show car, but all it needed was a floor. And I'm like, for that, I didn't have the money, and the guy I was working with was like, Reg, it's $1,600. Come up with the $1,600. Rob a bank, do something. It's you just can't beat that deal. And again, if you're looking at the older cars and looking at them from a point of view, is like, okay, this car is kind of rough, but if I were to pull it in to a garage somewhere, strip it right down and start from the ground up, even if it took you 10 years, you might be able to secure your retirement with this thing if you can make it original enough. And you can buy, you might have to hunt around a bit, but you can buy all the OEM stuff right to it's like Harley Davidson. Like, again, I had a 1948 Harley Davidson. Every part for the 1948 Harley Davidson Panhead, I could order. Every part. I could make that bike 100% stock original. In fact, you can buy a kit bike to make it exactly the way it came off the line. The castings were sold, and people took the castings and whatever and started reproducing the bike. Well, the Ford Mustang's the same thing, But then that's what devalues them too, is because of the commonality. But it is a good, I think, viable option for some people if they're looking for a car that can be a semi-sporty car, but understand that it's not a full-out sports car, so handling may vary from car to car. It's the problem that the Mustangs had against like the Camaros, the Corvettes, and the Trans Ams, and Firebirds and stuff like that, is that they were a bit anemic power-wise in comparison to those big Chevys, and especially the older Camaros. Like the '68 Camaro was a pretty it was a great-looking car. I think it was the first gen Camaros are just gorgeous, right? And yeah, but they were big engines in there, like they could really get up there. And then of course Mopar power comes in when you have Chargers and Challengers and Plymouth Cudas and stuff like that. I mean, those cars were starting to put in some pretty big engines, right? So the Ford Mustang took a little while before the engines got big, but they were always a little bit, they were always at the top end, where the other cars, a lot like the Trans Am was the king dog of the day for a long time in the late 70s, because it was the big engine in there, right? Lots of power. But they were also heavier cars, where the Mustang was always kind of like the lighter of the cars, right? They were lighter than the Camaros, lighter than the Trans Ams, maybe not so much lighter than the Corvettes, but the Corvette is technically a sports car. Is it a sports car? Is it a muscle car? We'll debate that at another time. But anyway, yeah. So who knows what project car I'll eventually end up with? But it's nice to look at cars that are slightly newer. You know, like to me, 2005 is new. You know, like that's newer. That's a car that, you know, it's not going to have any rust on it. You know, that type of thing. And still find them in a price range that you can afford. But it's nice to know that you can get one in a decent, if you know what you're looking for, and how, you know, if it wasn't too, again, it's the same problem that you have with the like the BMWs out there. It's like everybody just beats them up so bad. Same with the Mustangs, they beat them up so bad that by the time you get to them, you know, are they any good anymore, right? So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that. So I know I didn't really say why they suck, because they don't really suck. It's just these are things to consider. So you guys tell me what you think about them. I know some people say, "Oh yeah, you know, Mustangs forever," and other people, wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, that type of thing. You know, run as far as you can the other way, burn them all. I know. There's going to be, you know, it's a love 'em, hate 'em car, but there's a lot of cool things that I think you can look at the Mustang, and I'm probably going to do a bunch of other cars as well. It's just something to yak about now that we're getting into the winter months. So hopefully, maybe by the spring, I'll find myself a decent deal on something that's ready to drive right away, and then who knows what it'll be. Maybe it'll be a Mustang. But anyway, rate, subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you, again, subscribe for sure. Next to that, be true to yourself, be true to others. Always do the right thing. Have yourselves a great day.